What we're going to be talking about in this video is how the ego is controlling your life. Okay, and everybody uses the word ego in very different ways, but when I use the word ego, what I'm talking about is the unobserved mind. Okay, the thought processes in your head that you were unconsciously attached to, believing those thoughts to be who you truly are. And so if you don't know what I mean, check out my video on what is the ego. But really what the ego is there's all these thoughts in your head that are going on that you were unconscious of, and you don't realize that you have these thoughts. And there's so many patterns, so many thought patterns, and so many emotional patterns within these thought patterns and this ego structure that you've developed that are making you take actions that are based on fear and anxiety and worry that you never would have taken if you were not attached to this ego structure that you have and you believe this to be who you are. Okay, because the ego is controlling your life in a lot more ways than you think. What I'm saying is extremely significant, because what I'm saying is that if the ego isn't controlling your life, what that means is that the conditioning of the past and all these conditions and all these thought processes do not have to define who you are, and the decisions that you make and who you consider to be yourself will not be dependent on these thought processes, will not be dependent on the emotions that you feel. And you'll just see the thoughts as just thought forms, because that's all thoughts really are, is just thought forms. But the problem is that we have all these thoughts going on in the background and we don't even realize that they're going on. And then during that process of having these thoughts in the background, you consider that to be who you truly are, when it's nothing more than just a thought form in the background. But that's the problem, is that when these thoughts are in the background and you're unconsciously keeping your attention on them, that is when you believe them to be who you truly are. And so this is a really hard thing to communicate, because the problem is that unless you have awareness of your thoughts, you're never going to realize what this means, and you're just going to be very sucked into the content of your mind, and it's going to make you make decisions that you never would have made before. You might have had a memory in the past where you went through a lot of pain and trauma, and then you quickly attach to that thought and those feelings, and then ever since then you believe that's who I am. I am this unhappy person that feels depressed, and that I go through lots of pain in my life. And so this is the problem, is that when we go through this experience and we attach to that, ever since that day you believe that to be who you are. And so the problem is that the ego is controlling your life in the sense that there's all these thought patterns that are going on, and then because you have a lack of awareness of them, it becomes the ego. And then the ego is now controlling it's almost like an external force of unconscious patterns that, unless you deal with them by becoming aware of them in something like meditation, you're always going to be like forced to follow this path and repeating the same patterns over and over and over in your life. This is why some people do the same kind of things every single day. This is why some people repeat the same loop of bad habits every single day, because there's a certain momentum to the ego structure and these thoughts that are in your life. There's a certain pull and it's like a loop where you tend to repeat the same things over and over and over, and it really comes from the ego and the unconscious thought patterns that are kind of flowing in your head day in, day out. And that's really the problem with the ego, is that you believe it to be who you are. The ego loves to stay comfortable too, because it likes to stay in the thoughts and not kind of zoom out and just watch them for what they really are, which is just thought forms. I mean, think about that for a second. How crazy is it that we believe that the thoughts in our head are who we are, when you don't realize that's nothing more than a thought in your head. It's just a voice in your head. And then you have an emotion that might come up from that, and you believe you are that emotion, when it's nothing more than an emotional pattern and an energy field in your body that you don't have to attach to. You don't have to create a sense of self around it. And this is really, really hard, because when you begin to connect deeper to the present moment, what's going to happen is because that momentum is so strong, you're going to feel that pull to go back into the ego structure. And once again, what the ego really is the unobserved mind. Okay, every single moment that you are not in awareness of your thinking and observing your thinking, those thoughts are controlling your life. They are literally controlling your life. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. This is really, really crazy stuff. Like, this is so significant. And unless you realize this in your experience, you're going to be, you're not going to fully understand and see the significance of what I'm saying, because every single moment that you do not have awareness of your thinking, the ego is controlling your life, making you make decisions from fear, anxiety. When you're living in the ego, you live in fear. When you're living in the ego, you have a false sense of self. When you're living in the ego, you make actions, you take actions that you never would have taken before. You're always in a state of impatience and dis-ease and always looking for the future. You're always seeking in the future. You're always seeking for the future. And then the moment you get that thing that you've finally been looking for, you get it and you're still not happy because you have a pattern of seeking that is within the ego construct. And so this is the problem, is that we're always going through life and we're seeking things, and then you die. And that's life. Is that what you want your life to be? Living in the ego, consistently seeking for the future, which never comes because the future doesn't exist and the present moment is all that exists. And the future is really a thought in your head that you're chasing. And the moment you get to that thing that you think is the future, which is still the moment, you'll finally get to that thing and you're still chasing in the future because that's the pattern you've developed. So this goes so deep. The ego is controlling your life in so many ways, and the ultimate key to stop letting it control your life is to deeply enter the present moment and have awareness of your thinking. See your thoughts as just thoughts and nothing more, but not create a sense of self from them. Think about that. What is even a thought? It's a thought form. It's an energy in your head. It's just a thought. It's not who you are. Who you are goes way deeper than a thought in your head. Wouldn't you agree on that? Wouldn't you agree that the thoughts in your head are just one little piece of the entire reality of who you truly are, and that's not who you really are on a deeper level? It's just thoughts. So this goes deep, man. This goes deep, but that's all I have for you today. So if you like this kind of content, then consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell, because I post a video every single day. Have yourself a great day and see you in the next video.